Hi, Ant here again with another screencast. Just a quickie this time. This is to demonstrate how we use the save copy in function in Pro Tools to save complete copies of our session with all the associated files. Okay, so as I'm sure you know, if we go to the file menu here, when we do save as, okay, that is not the same as saving a copy of the entire session. If I go save as, all I'm going to save is this little, you see this PTF file. This is the session file that tells Pro Tools where to put all of the audio and MIDI. But if you save as and save that somewhere else, all you're saving is that one little file. So you won't have any of the audio that's attached or anything else. Okay? So as you're going to need to be keeping copies of everything that you do for your assessments and everything else, what you need to use is this save copy in function. Now, before we look at that, this is the little bit of music that I've been working on in the last couple of sessions, okay? But I've added this silly glitchy thing in structure, okay? So everything else is audio, but this is actually structure running live. Okay? And the reason I've done this is because we often have problems where students submit work where they've used structure, but that it doesn't come with the samples that they've been using in structure. So these little samples that I've put in there were an audio file that I dragged in, and I selected portions of and put in structure, which is what we did in another screencast. I share how to do that. But there's something you must do if you want your saved copy to include the samples. Otherwise, you could submit work and there would be no samples present, okay? And we would get an error. If I go to the plugin for Structure Free, okay? Now, if we go up here, I'll zoom in just a bit. See where it says preset there, and there's this little triangle here. If I drop that down, so we've got all these settings relating to the plugin settings, okay? So you can use save settings and save setting as to save the patch that you've got in any plugin. This isn't just for structure, this is for any plugin. But what's very important is if you go down to settings preferences and save plugin settings to, and then I'm going to have to zoom out. So you've got root settings folder or session folder, okay? You've got to make sure you select session folder so that it saves a copy of your patch with the samples included, okay? So that is very important. If you're submitting something with structure in it, you must do that. Otherwise, we could end up with no samples, okay? So I've selected that. And if I go to the Finder and I find my session, okay, so this is my session here, and this is, so now you can see this also has this structure files folder. I go in there, and this is all of our files for structure, okay? So unless you select that option to save the settings to the session folder, this will not happen, and we won't be able to hear what it is you did in structure, okay? So I just thought I'd better let you know about that. So with that said, we've got everything sorted in our session and we're ready to save a copy of it. Let's imagine this is going to go onto our thumb drive or whatever, okay? So what we need to do is go up to File and Save Copy In. So this window is where we set all of the options for saving a copy of the session. So session format latest, that's fine, that's what you want. In 99 times out of 100, this whole section here will just be fine as it is. Audio file type, broadcast wave format, .wav, that's what we want. Sample rate, 44.1, that's my sample rate for this session, that's fine. Audio bit depth, 24-bit, yeah, absolutely fine. We don't need to worry about any of this. Now, this section, items to copy, okay? So I need to tell it all audio files. So I want to copy all of the audio files, okay? And then over here, we got the session plugin settings folder, okay? And I would also, just in case, copy the root plugin settings folder. And those should be all that you need, okay? So I go, okay. And it's asking me where to save it, okay? Now remember, this is the same as when you're creating a session. So it will actually make a folder with this name. You don't have to worry about making a folder and then saving the copy inside it, okay? So, copy of bouncing instrument tracks to audio. That's what it's going to be called. And I'm going to save it in that root folder there. So I hit save. And off it goes, and it saves a copy of all the audio. And this, it's sort of hung there for a moment, and usually that is when it's saving out the structure patch. And there we go, that's done. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to test it, and this is always very important, you must check that it actually works. So what you may find it's easier to do is when you do save copy in, rather than saving, if you're using a thumb drive, a little USB stick, rather than saving the copy directly to that, you might want to save it to the desktop or, within the temp drive in G127, and check it works, and then just drag and drop that whole folder. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my session down, and I'm going to open the copy session. And we get this menu here, which is this dialogue, which is basically just telling us that it's moved, that the session has moved. That's fine. Would I like to save a detailed report? No. And there we go. Okay. So that should all be working fine. Let's just play a bit. So that's a complete copy of our session, okay? And this is how you should be managing your sessions. Every time you come in to do work on it, you should always do a save copy in version of what you've done. You should always have the latest version of your work, okay? I hope that's been helpful to you, and I'll see you again soon.